Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. Week four, week four. Glad to see you hanging in there. I missed a couple of weeks away on retreat, but happy to be back. So we'll start our time with a short sit, short 10, 15 minutes. Check in with the body. Maybe you're like me and sort of rushing to get here. So we can do our best to relax, find a posture that we can hold comfortably for 10, 15 minutes or so. Just finding the rhythm of the breath. Not trying to regulate or control. Landing right here, right now. And then turning awareness to the body, and we'll start at the crown of the head. Again, not trying to create any sort of circumstance or experience. We're simply interested, turning awareness to places maybe we haven't even considered today or longer. You might notice sensation on the scalp, warmness or coolness. Just allowing a relaxed interest in what's here. Allowing that awareness to melt down to the ears, the forehead, noticing sensation on the face, the eyes, discerning all of the parts of the face, the nose, as best we can, relaxing the jaw. Interested in the throat, sides of the neck, Anchored right here in the body. The back of the neck and the spine. Is there tightness or tension? Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Aware of sensation in the arms. Interested in the bend of the elbow. Aware of the position of the hands, contact, sensation. Aware of the movement in the center of the body, the torso. The belly. And continuing down to the pelvic area. And hips. Bringing awareness to the contact with the seat. Sensation in the thighs, the front and the back. What's happening at the bend of the knee? Interest continuing down the legs, shin, calf. Not resisting whatever is present here. Is there awareness of energy or sensation at the ankle? Awareness of the heel or the side of the foot as it rests on the cushion. Or if you're sitting upright in a chair, awareness of the foot and the floor. And all the parts of the foot, the heel, any arch, the ball of the foot, and the toes. And for a few breaths together, just bringing awareness to the fullness, the wholeness of the body. This whole body breathing. Doing our best to relax into this body just as it is. Take a minute to adjust your posture or stretch your legs if you need to.
The one that's the PA kind of more center.
Which one is not this one?
I think that's probably okay, but the one now, this one, yeah, that one. We're gonna wanna move. So it's playing right at the mouth.
Mic check, mic check. Is that any better? Okay, we'll see. Well, welcome back. Um, 6 weeks, 6-week course is a commitment, interest in your mind and staying close to. I imagine you've figured out isn't always pleasant. But I imagine, well, at least I hope that over the weeks you've learned some useful strategies for staying with it, staying interested. And so we'll continue that journey this evening. I'll talk a little bit about some common obstructions to this journey of mindfulness. The really the goal of this practice, right, is freedom from the suffering of our stress, our greed, hatred, and delusion, right? Not wanting this, wanting more of the good stuff, the confusion about which is which is good, which is bad, all of the questions. And the path to this freedom is really in this practice of intimately knowing the mind, getting to know and relating wisely to not only the mind, but the way that we respond to what arises in the mind. So there are some practices that Mark has been talking about for the last couple of weeks that support this clarity and intimacy. And so I get the fun of talking about some of the things that arise in the mind that absolutely obstruct that clarity, this intention of concentration, wisdom. And they're called the hindrances because they hinder clarity. They hinder our ability to relax and understand the mind and relate wisely. And so we learn how to recognize what these hindrances are. I like to call them the top 5. This, I'm sure we can all think of some ways that our habitual ways that our mind has constructed and responding to experience that interrupts our capacity to settle, to relax. But these, the Buddha taught, are most common and actually advised us to take up study with them throughout our practice. So it's not a one and done at all. And the better that we understand these hindrances, the less likely we are to get caught by them. So it's not that we identify them and they never arise again. That might be great, but that's just not the nature of mind. But what happens is they're not as activating for us, or we become less interested, right? Sort of like the ants on the streets, like, oh yeah, they're ants. They're there, they'll keep going. So the 5 hindrances, and it's technically 7, but 2 are paired together. as sensual desire. So that want for what feels good, what tastes good, what smells good, right? All of the time, right? And that pull, only wanting, only looking for that which feels good. And that's not to say that this desire or interest in being comfortable, feeling good, in and of itself is bad or unskillful, right? There's this balance that uh, we aim for, we strive for, because otherwise, if we're only striving for this goodness, then it really becomes painful. It's unsatisfactory, right? Because we just never quite get there. It's never quite enough. And the second hindrance is the opposite side of the coin, is aversion or ill will, right? Not this, not. And you might recognize a familiar habit response of your own mind in this list. I relate closely to this aversion, and I notice it in my mind, just the looking for, like, what's wrong with this situation, what's broken, what's missing, right? And again, that absence of balance leaves many situations unsatisfactory, right? So there's always looking like, oh, everything looks great. It does, but there must be something here. And it also like impedes on our ability to just relax right here with the way that it is. The next hindrance is a pair, sloth and torpor. Sloth, as it suggests, it's the sluggishness, lethargy of the physical body, and the torpor is the sort of dullness of mind. We often talk about sloth and torpor as sleepiness in meditation, right? Whether it's the physical body or the mind, it makes it hella hard to be present when there is such dullness. Restlessness and regret, or restlessness and worry is a fourth hindrance. And it is just as it sounds, right? The mind, this is my direct experience, that just doesn't stop. It's like the what if, right? What about this? What about that? Guarding, defending, and then doubt. I think most traditionally, doubt is taught about doubting the path of practice. Is this for me? Is this really working? And we can see doubt even more broadly in our daily lives. Maybe you can. I certainly can. Is this the right time, the right person? Am I the right? All of the questions that go with doubt. One of the teachings of the Buddha is just so useful. It likens the mind to a pond in reflecting on these hindrances. And so the mind that is caught up with sense desire, he likens to a pond that's been filled with dye, colored dye, so that everything is sort of seen through rose-colored glasses, right? Everything is lovely and we just want more, more, more. But it's still, the dye clouds our ability to see clearly just the way that it is, right? Sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant, a lot of neutral in there. And so this interest in these hindrances allows us to recognize them when they are in motion. So when there's this dye, or we're seeing with rose-colored glasses, or the interest in the mind is for sense pleasure. And likewise with ill will or aversion or resentment or anger, possibly experiences or feelings that you may have known at some point in time. The simile is water boiling. And it's impossible to have clarity to see until there's some cooling of the mind. And likewise with sloth and torpor. The simile is algae, a pond covered with algae, right? And it's, you can't see through it, but it's a lot of work to pull the algae out to be able to see clearly. And restlessness and regret or agitation or remorse, it's like the wind sweeping over the water, just whipping everything up. You can't see in front of you, let alone see clearly into the pond. And maybe you know that experience. Often I hear people talk about, and myself, like at night, right? You can't quite fall asleep, restless, the mind is going from one thing to the next, recalling some scenario or situation that we're replaying what we could have done, should have done, or launching ourselves into the future, what we will do, preparing for a scenario or a situation. And then there's doubt. And that's just a pond filled with mud and muck, right? It's hard to get anywhere. And doubt is so seductive, even, right? Because it has this sort of agency or authority to it. It's believable. Like we want to investigate it. We're caught, we're hooked. We want to investigate it, explore it more. The challenge with any of these is they arise, so there must be something to it, and we take it personally, right? Like, if I just get this right, I won't be so restless, right? If I get up in the middle of the night and whip out those 5 emails, everything will be better. My mind will settle, right? It doesn't. Right? And so we can easily get caught in the striving to fix a problem or something that we've identified as a problem, something in this activity of mind. If I were living right, if I got it right, I wouldn't have this doubt. I wouldn't have this anxiety. I wouldn't have this worry. Which is another form of delusion and confusion, right? Our practice, like we started, simply to relax and learn to recognize just what's here, not taking it personally, not judging it, not having preferences. That's a hard one, right? Because I don't want to be anxious. Right? I want to have this clear understanding all of the time. And yet I know that it's experience of doubt. It comes and it goes, and it does go, and it does shift. We do know that it's not the same in every moment, all of the time, right? We often have this story or imagining, It's here. It's never going to go away. It's always been here. I remember when I was 5. It's always been like this. But our work is to really be interested. Like, actually, when does this particular hindrance arise? What are the conditions that support its arising? And noticing, this is a great practice, noticing when that particular hindrance is not present. That's one that gets by me a lot because I'm always looking. So I don't pause to notice, or we're too busy trying to fix something. And recognizing hindrances as impermanent will help lessen some of that power or strength that they hold. Gil Fronsdal, who's a senior teacher out in California and has a center and has practiced as a monastic and has been teaching a long, long time. He wrote a whole little book on the hindrances. So like this is could be a whole week-long retreat. And he talks about imagining the mind or ourselves as sitting on a stone or a rock in the middle of a river, right? And the thoughts, our ideas, our preferences, the hindrances are the water that just streams by, right? We don't actually have to do anything about it at all. We accept nature, water as nature, and we can learn to accept these arisings of the mind, and this desire for what's pleasant and pleasing, this aversion to what's not pleasant and pleasing, these moments of dullness, or we might call them boredom or disinterest, these moments of anxiety when we get sort of whipped up and caught, and all of those moments of doubt and confusion are natural activities of mind. They are not personal to any one of us. If there's someone who hasn't experienced any of those, I'd love to chat with you, right? But they arise and they fade. And it's not to say that we ignore them. It's also, what I should say is that we're also not fully indulging them, just hoping that one day they will dissipate. There are some practices, or I would call them strategies. I'm certain Mark has been talking about them the last couple of weeks. Fortunately, I think we've talked about that this practice is relatively simple, not always easy, but simple. And one strategy or practice that is consistent is the relaxing and letting things be. There's nothing to do here. The very first thing to do is to look and be interested. Like, what are the conditions of the mind, of our environment, our relationships? What are the conditions that supported the arising of this state of mind? And not to identify and go fix it, but also to understand what are the conditions that support the passing of this same hindrance, this same conditioning of mind. And the clearer that we are able to get, sort of the less under the spell of a particular hindrance that we will be over time. The Buddha always taught investigate, right? This be interested. And that can be a hook too, right? Because we want to go in and problem solve and figure out and find out the way so that this isn't a particular problem anymore. And so there's this balancing certainly to our interest. Not only the conditions that support the arising, that support the passing or prevent it from re-arising again, but what is underlying this anxiety that arises? Is this a cover for insecurity? Is this sense desire a cover for a longing or a loneliness? Right? Looking to fill some sense of aloneness. And there's not any particular, there's not a set formula, right? This is the invitation to inquire, to really be interested. My doubt today could totally be about insecurity and something else altogether tomorrow. But to stay interested is the invitation. And we can do that by remembering to relax the body, relax the mind. Even just saying that, my own nervousness, I could feel my jaw soften just a bit, my shoulders drop just a bit, and be interested in what's here. It calls for a bit of patience to wait, to see with clarity. I don't know about you, but my mind is conditioned to want to know the problem, figure out a solution, execute that, move on. And that's not quite the nature of practice or the way the mind is conditioned. But what we can do also is be interested in those moments where there is some freedom, some ease, where we don't find ourselves grasping or being averse. There's enough interest, right? The mind is settled enough. And to remember that moment, even if fleeting, right? To remember the flavor of that moment. When in 5 minutes from now, we're completely swept up. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Mark's going to, I think, guide us in a meditation.
People can stand and stretch a little bit. And we'll get started in just a minute or so. So whenever you feel ready, you don't have to rush, just settle into a comfortable posture. We'll be sitting for about 30 minutes, so think about what posture works best for you. And some of you probably have found it useful to begin your sitting time, your formal meditation time, with a few longer, deeper breaths where you're filling and emptying the lungs in a conscious way, taking your time. And it's a way back into a more intimate way of being with the body. So do that a few times if you like. As if we have all the time in the world to simply breathe in and breathe out. Learning not to be in a rush. And maybe one more time, slowly filling, slowly emptying the lungs. And when you're ready, just allowing the breathing process to move on its own, because we know the body knows how to breathe. We don't need to consciously control that movement of the breath. Even if the breath feels a little off or rough, you just trust the body to do the breathing. And one of the things we've been doing these first several weeks of the course is learning how to skillfully use a meditation anchor, meditation object. Probably most of us have been working with the ordinary sensations of breathing in and breathing out. Perhaps some of you prefer to be aware the whole body sitting, or even in less common, but some people like working with hearing as a meditation anchor, a way back to the present moment. But I'll talk as if we're all using the breath, but you can just work with your meditation object that you've decided on. So of course there is this natural rhythm of breathing in, breathing out, and just resolving to be interested in that physicality of breathing in, wherever, however you feel that in the body. And notice that movement of sensation as you breathe out. It might be that rising and falling of the abdominal wall or the touching at the nostrils. However, it's easy for you to simply feel the breath coming in, feeling the sensations of the breath going out. And it's not actually that we're trying to be aware of the breathing process. It's more about recognizing that the mind is aware already. So we're remembering to recognize that breathing in is being known and breathing out is being known, being felt. And we're just learning. It's not easy, but we're learning this simple skill of tracking the simple physicality of breathing in, being intimate without having to manage or control or judge. Just let it happen. And then the same with the out breath. And just see, can the attentiveness, the awareness that breathing in is happening, can that be sustained through the duration of one inhalation? And then again, through the duration of one exhalation, from the beginning to the end. Remember, it's essential to relax. Whatever it is we're doing, it doesn't depend on being tight. Tightness isn't going to help. We're simply training the mind to keep the breath in mind, to not forget. Not forget that breathing in is being known, and then breathing out is being known or being felt. Building up this continuity, this not forgetting. And that we can be intimate but not controlling or tight about it. Although it might take some practice to be intimate with the breathing process without reflexively getting tight or controlling. So be patient and forgiving. Let the breath be the way it is. And don't worry if there's a little wavering, a little distractedness. Just begin again and again and again and again. And when you can, notice a subtle pleasure in the non-distractedness itself. We're letting go of everything else and choosing to keep this ordinary process of breathing in and breathing out, or maybe some of you were using the whole body as your meditation anchor. We're keeping the present moment in mind through the use of our meditation anchor. And the present moment is always something being known. So when we're training with the breath or training with the whole body, sitting is being known, or breathing out is being known. That's the recognition of the present moment. And then when the mind gets drawn into distraction, then it's the same thing, except it's distraction is being known. And it might be one of the 5 hindrances that Stacy just spoke about. Wanting is being known. Or aversion, not wanting, is being known. Dullness Heaviness in the body is being known. Restlessness or worrying is being known. Doubting is being known. So you can actually name or acknowledge the stronger distractions. If it's just a mild distraction, just begin again. Come back to your meditation anchor. Feel the breath or feel the body just as it is. But if it's a more persistent, more seductive distraction, then you might want to silently name it. And if you don't really know what it is, you might just acknowledge thinking. Thinking is being known. It's like this now. And just be curious about the underlying feeling. What's the feeling here? Oh, because you might find that by feeling what it feels like, the impulse to think weakens or goes away. And you can always return to your training anchor, meditation anchor, when there's no predominant distraction. And just connecting and sustaining with the breath or with the awareness of the whole body. So again, experiment with a simple acknowledgement of the distraction. And if you don't have any clarity, just acknowledge it as a distraction. Oh, the mind's distracted. You can just ask, well, what's the mind sensing or knowing, feeling? What's the feeling here? Oh, it feels like this. Well, can this be okay that it feels like this right now? See, then we're still practicing, even though we may not be with the anchor, the breath, we're with the present moment. So we'll continue in silence for a while now. So again, remember to experiment with naming or labeling the predominant distractions. And you can use the list that Stacy talked about. Is it wanting? Is there wanting in the mind? Or not wanting, aversion? Is there doubt? Is there too much energy, restlessness, or too little, sleepiness? What's the problem here? What is it that gets in the way of just being in the present moment or being with my meditation anchor, connecting and sustaining? So be actually curious. You're not being judgmental. You don't have to get tight. But just get curious about that process of the mind getting pulled away or getting seduced or getting caught up in something. And see if you can name it for what it actually is. Oh, it's just the mind wanting something. Wanting feels like this, looks like this. So that the distraction or the hindrance becomes the object that's being known here in the present moment. See, then we're practicing again. And be interested, especially in the underlying feeling. So if you notice the mind's getting distracted over and over, then make sure that you're interested. Well, what's the underlying feeling here? What does it feel like? Can I feel this? Can I relax with this feeling? Allow it to move, allow it to be what it is. And how does that change things when we're willing to feel what's here to feel? You might find that what is distracting evaporates or disappears. And then just come back to the meditation anchor. And if there's a lot of confusion or doubt, you can just simply ask, well, what's the mind knowing now? What's being known? And we're learning how to be curious or interested in the present moment. Oh, this is being known. Might be some mental image, might be some subtle vibration or constriction in the body energetically, right? So sometimes it's quite subtle, but it's still something being known in the present moment. Oh, it's like this. Well, can this be okay? Is it okay to relax? Is it okay to return to the meditation anchor and feel the next breath coming in just as it is, and feel the next breath going out just as it is, and developing that particular meditation muscle of connecting and sustaining. And now for the last 3 or 4 minutes, just sitting in a relaxed way if you can. Allow the eyes to open if they've been closed. So just recognizing that here in the present moment, seeing is being known. We're not looking at anything in particular. So it's just a more simple experience of visual form is being seen. Sounds are being heard. Sensations are being felt. Mental activity, thoughts, perceptions, etc. are being known. Just a sense of being right in the middle of this bodily and mental activity. Not having to fix or control. So just experiment, see if it's possible to be at ease with this sensitivity to the bodily and mental activity. And then noticing those moments when the mind gets fixated or gets tight, gets attached or identified. And notice what that's like. So right here in the middle of all this bodily and mental activity, can wisdom, let's call it, can wisdom just simply allow things to come and go? And just see. What's in the way of being at ease? At ease with the conditions that are coming and going. Don't have to judge anything. But we are learning to value being present, being intimate, being awake. Right here, right in the middle. And the simple ringing truth is, it's like this now. It feels like this now. Can this be okay? Is it okay to relax? Right here in the middle. And again, let's take our time and adjust and stretch and do what you need to make the body feel comfortable if there's some stiffness. And as Stacy and I have been mentioning, we learned quite a bit, just always having some time for people to share what you've been learning and share questions that are emerging in your practice, difficulties that, especially this week, week 4, we often reflect a little more deeply about, as Stacy was talking about, what gets in the way of the continuity of present moment awareness. So whatever you've been learning about that, what does interrupt your present moment awareness, both in daily life, but also during your sets. Yeah, so it'd be nice to hear from some of you. For those in the room, if you're comfortable, you could sit up here. That way we could hand you the mic and the people online could hear you better. But we could also repeat your question. That's fine too. So both, and people online, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. Or if you know how to raise your digital hand, you can do that and then we'll call on you. Yeah, who'd like to go first? And Stacy and I will probably take turns just responding to your comments. Yeah, please. Do you mind coming up?
Just speaking here. Okay. Hello. I guess it was kind of a two-part question. But my first question is if I think samadhi is the word. Is that a product or a residue of the sustained interest or awareness? Is that the connection between them? And to that end, I was wondering if you could offer what I struggle with is maybe there's a subtle difference between the sustained interest and, as you've called it, the muscular tightness of trying to force interest. And if you could offer any tips on how to distinguish between those or something.
Yeah, thank you. That's really important. Maybe I'll do this first one and Stacy can do the next. But yeah, and that's a nice way to talk about it. It's the sustained interest in the present moment, whether we're using the anchor, the meditation object, or we're just aware of what's ever predominant in the moment. Like, right? We can be interested, hearing is being known, or seeing Mark is being known, or feeling the body sitting is being known. So we can have sustained interest with multiple objects, one after another. It doesn't have to be the same object, like sticking with the breath. That's just the training mechanism that we use to have a singular or exclusive meditation object. And when we do sustain present moment awareness, then it's like a shift happens, and we call that shift samadhi, because the mind goes from a distracted, superficial, fragmented, scattered state, which is our ordinary state. It doesn't stand out because it's kind of our usual state through most of our lives. So initially, samadhi looks like, we experience samadhi as like an altered state of consciousness, but it's only because it's rather novel for most of us, right? But then when it becomes more common, then it's not going to seem altered or special. But initially it will feel special because the mind goes from its ordinary scattered, dissipated, superficial state to a more unified state. It's not forgetting the present moment. And it really arises out of that sustained interest. So the cause for samadhi, that unification or that stability, because the mind becomes powerful when it has a little of that samadhi, that stability. Like I said, it seems like a different mind, like, oh, where have you been all my life? Because the takeaway is this mind is capable of being really functional, really competent. This is the kind of mind I want. It's clear, it's relaxed, and it sort of has that sense of being unflappable, like in a felt sense way, it feels, that's why we use that word stable. There's something like feels solid about the mind, even though it's not actually solid, but there's just a sense of like things could come and go, but that awareness, the stability of awareness is unflappable. Okay, now this, now that, now it's like this. It's something feels unmoved, but it's not like a distant, like you're not indifferent, you're not distant, but it's there. And this we can all, each of us, we can check out for ourselves. We just need that sustained interest in the present moment. Whether you're at a particular time using a meditation anchor to support that sustained interest, like sustaining interest in the breathing in and the breathing out, and the physicality, like just tracking, or you're doing more of the open awareness that we do a little bit at the end of our sits, where we've got our 6 senses, smells and tastes and touches and sights and sounds and mental activity. And whatever is predominant moment by moment, then that's what's being known. Because we can sustain interest with that open awareness too. It's just a little bit more challenging, but it's good because it's more like daily life, where things are coming at us through all the sense gates. We don't have as much of a protective space. Yeah, thanks so much for that. Who'd like to go next? Yeah, do you want to sit up here so they can hear you, or do you want us to repeat it?
Yeah. Do you mind repeating it?
Sure, I'll give this to Stacy.
I'm going to use a word that you said, which is stable. I had a really easy time staying stable in spaces like these, in nature, around friends and people I like. stuff like survival, working a 9 to 5, commuting. So it's really not a 9 to 5. It's like I feel like I'm wasting half my day just to survive, and I don't see the outlook. It's not like I'm thriving. It's like I'm barely surviving. And in that state, I come in with this stableness. I'm like, put in the practice. I'm here. And by the end of it, I'm nowhere. I'm just like a little bit angry, a little bit agitated, and it takes me a while to like get back to stable. Do you have any advice on how to deal with that?
Which one am I talking into the? I'm talking. This feels like greed. Just more mic, more mic. So I'll do my best to summarize the question for the folks online. So the question. I'm sorry, share your name, if you will.
My name is
Ipsa. Ipsa shared that in spaces like this, where there's quiet, a bit more quiet and stillness, or when Ipsa is with people that they like, that it's more accessible to be in balance and have the steadiness of mind. And it feels like the commute to work and the 8-hour day that extends beyond 8 hours feels a bit like a waste of time, I think is the words that you used, a waste of time, a disruptive to that stability. And then it takes some effort to come back into stability. Yeah. So I imagine that many of us can relate to that. These are indeed ideal conditions, right? It's not a lot of distraction. The decoration or the decor is simple. We're all being on our best behavior, kind and listening and moving with intention. And this is just one expression of the world that we're in, right? We step outside and someone's zooming by on their bike, or someone's cussing us out on the bus, and this too is part of this life that we live. And this stability of mind resides within us, right? It is actually not conditioned on the external world, right? That's sort of an expectation. That would be great. That's sort of like living a monastic life or living on retreat forever, where everything is simple, our needs are taken care of, we only have to expose ourselves to people that are pleasant and pleasing and agreeable. And even in retreat life or monastic life, there is difference, right? And so our practice is learning to bring this state of mind, standing firm in this state of mind in the midst of the swirl of life. When Mark was talking about samadhi, I thought about just talking to someone I really don't want to even be talking to. And being fully present. Just really interested in what they have to say, giving my full attention as I would with someone I care for deeply. Right? And so it's this remembering of our capacity to be present, how we're relating to the person cussing us out on the bus. Is there compassion? Is there interest? Or is there just this desire to have my universe shaped just exactly the way that I want it, right? I can really relate to the work situation. I fantasize about retirement. I think too often. It's actually, I think, a bit disruptive. And I gave myself a little talking to the last couple of days, especially after coming back from retreat. I'm like, oh, that's the life I want. I just want to practice and then share my practice. But I have this deep gratitude for the life, the lifestyle that my work provides me. As stressful as it is, as many hours a day of my life that it takes, there is some fruit. There is some great benefit. And so Mark talked about In our sit, being able to appreciate or even see moments of clarity or stillness. Can we see like those moments of joy and have gratitude for those things in our life where maybe at a glance it's like, I'd rather not have that. Can we see, have some appreciation? So when you're on your commute, when you're at work, it's the same practice actually. Noticing how we're relating to what's before us right now. Is there aversion? Is there this desire? Are we just like checking out? Or are we swimming in confusion, delusion, or doubt? So that's what I said earlier about the practice being simple, not always easy, but simple. Like you've noticed, I'm sure, a theme in these few weeks already of how to relate to experience. This relaxing, this really being interested, and trying to attune to what's skillful, what's useful. Is relating to my job, me, Stacy. I don't want this job, I just want to retire, oh my God, it's 10 more years, blah, 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 blah. Like, is this way of relating to this truth? I have this job that I have committed to showing up to every day. Is it alleviating stress for me? This way of relating, not the job. The object is my mind. Or is it actually adding to my stress? And it's a trip to see all of the ways that we are adding to our own stress by the way that we just think, the way that we're relating to experience. So I hope that's useful. I wish there was something more that felt like meatier, but it is relaxing and allowing some softness, some kindness around the way that we relate to the truth of our experience. It's not always pleasant and pleasing. Sometimes we do want to be doing something else.
Do you think it's fair that we have to do all this just to survive? I think that's where the anger in me comes out. So I'm like, I start to think about like why I'm here trapped. And I can, when I do calm myself down, I practice what you said, give space, etc. And some days the anger takes over, and I'm like, why am I stuck here? This is ridiculous. And that's do you have maybe a way of dealing with like that anger that just pops up of unfairness of trapped, like sentient being trapped in this cubicle or whatever?
Yeah, there's the follow-up, IPSA, right? It's a follow-up, like, yeah, but is it fair that we're trapped in having to do these things that we don't want to do that aren't gratifying? I feel like we should have coffee because this is a conversation I've been having with myself. And the difficult truth that I spoke to myself is this is actually a choice. It is actually a choice. I have talked to a number of people who have walked away from their jobs and chosen a different lifestyle. Like, that's the other end of the spectrum. That gets to be a possibility too. So what am I willing to do to create ease, spaciousness in my life? And the other side of that is it's incredibly difficult to be present, to be productive, if we have this sense of not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling supported. So what are we bringing into this space that we're in? So I don't... yeah, my heart is with you. It's not simple, right? It is not simple. I think a lot of I've spent a lot of time, I should say that, in my own practice, wishing, hoping, thinking, sketching out how things could be ideal. And at the end of that 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 3 days, whatever it is, I'm here. Here I am, the conditions as they are, what's needed right now in this moment. And Mark talks about present moment awareness, and it has been a most useful practice to take that literally, like just this moment. Because the mind gets so swept away. What am I doing wrong here? It gets so swept away in what it should be, what it will be down the road. And what we are setting in motion in this very moment is what matters most. It conditions the next and conditions the next. So when I show up at work with a crappy attitude, that's going to set some stuff in motion that I'm going to have to reckon with. So what can I do right now to be kind to the person that I really don't want to be talking to, right? So I talked a lot and we're at time. I apologize for other folks who may have had questions.
No, it's really good conversation, and thanks to the two folks who shared. And we see you, Zoom folks, so we'll start with you next week, which is, by the way, July 4th, and we will be here online and in person, but some of you might have family obligations, and we are recording the classes right up to the YouTube channel, so they're there, and so you can re-listen to any of them, and even if you have to miss next week, please join us for the following week. We have 2 more weeks. You know, it takes some kind of commitment to even get a sense of whether you want this in your life, this practice of present moment awareness. So give it some time, and it's a nice thing we're doing together, because, if everyone left, then or 90% of the people left, then other people would wonder, well, maybe I should leave too. So it's something like we're supporting each other by keep showing up. So it's a real act of generosity. And the last thing I'll just mention is, if you haven't tried the walking meditation, especially as we're getting closer to the end of the course, right? This is how we do it all day long, because we're walking from the car to here, we're walking through the hallway at our home. There's all these sort of relatively neutral times when we're walking from point A to point B, and they're really good training places just to be in the body, in the moment, aware of the attitude of the mind, aware of the foot making contact with the floor. So play. Look, one of the handouts is instructions for walking meditation. And then just begin to do it. Give yourself some time to do it formally, where you're walking back and forth, maybe in your backyard or maybe in a hallway, or if you have a bigger room at home, you can walk back and forth in, so that it's easier on the fly to do it when you're walking from your car to your office or whatever it might be. Okay, and we'll talk about that next week, and among other things. Have a good week of practice, everyone.